Hi everyone, welcome to the session today. Before we get started, just a quick note on Teams. Feel free to drop your questions and Q&A anytime throughout the session. We have recruiters in the background screening questions to answer, and some of them will be answered live during Q&A. This event will also be recorded and posted as a video blog by next month in case you want to come back and view again. You'll also receive a follow-up email with answers to any questions we are not able to get to today. And if you'd like captions, go under settings. There are three dots which you can click and turn on the captions. All right, let's get started. Thank you once again for joining us today to discuss data science career paths at Thermo Fisher Scientific. My name is Pavitra. I'm HR leader for clinical research group of Thermo Fisher Scientific in India. I've been with the organization over 9+ years now. Before I introduced our panelists, I'd like to set some little context about what we'll be discussing today, and starting off with an introduction to Thermo Fisher Scientific, PPD, and a little bit about data and clinical research at our company. Okay, so at Thermo Fisher Scientific, we are united by one mission, what you see on the screen, right? To enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. Every day, colleagues across the globe come to work with this one purpose in mind, helping advance research, improve patient outcomes, and drive scientific innovation. So it's this shared sense of purpose that connects us and inspires us to make impact every day. And what lays foundation to our mission is our 4I values of integrity, intensity, innovation, and involvement, which make up our culture. It's not just that you see on the slide, it guides our colleagues' interactions with our customers, suppliers, and partners, and with each other. So these 4I values are very foundation of our culture and are fundamental to our continued growth. The numbers that you see on the screen represent more than scale, right? So they represent opportunity to collaborate globally, work on complex challenges, and build a career in an organization that continues to invest in innovation and growth. There are many of our attendees today from India, I can see that. So I'm going to speak a little bit about Thermo Fisher's present in India. We have established a considerable footprint in India. India is one of the countries which plays a critical role in Thermo Fisher's global success, with more than 6,300 colleagues supporting innovation, research, manufacturing, and customer operations across the country. Now, a little bit about PPD. So we've seen about Thermo Fisher. Within Thermo Fisher, PPD is the clinical research business of Thermo Fisher Scientific. We are a global leader in drug development and laboratory services. We partner with leading pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device, academic, and government organizations to bring life-changing therapies to the market. We are also well recognized globally, winning multiple awards for Clinical Researcher Company of the Year and Best CRO awards. So we do it and we do it well. So diving deep into ideas, right? So within clinical research, ideas, which is integrated data services, is the engine behind data-driven clinical trials. It brings together 3 specialized teams that work closely across clinical trial lifecycle. Starting with clinical data management, which focuses on ensuring clinical trial data is accurate, complete, and ready for analysis. Biostatistics and programming, raw study data into standardized data sets, reports, and insights that support analysis and regulatory submissions. We also have centralized monitoring, which uses data-driven approaches to identify risks early, enhance patient safety, and enable proactive study oversight. So together, if you see, these teams help deliver high-quality data and support faster, smarter decisions throughout the study lifecycle. Okay, so that wraps up a quick introduction about Thermo Fisher PPD, a breakdown of where we see the data scientists play their role in clinical data. And with that, I'm excited to start a panel discussion where we will dive much deeper. Speakers, if you can turn your camera on and tell us a bit about you, your name, title, how many years you've been at the company. Just to add, to make it a little more interesting, if you can add fun fact about you. Let's get started with Resha.
Sure. Thanks, Pavitra. Hi, everybody. My name is Resha Jamkhandi. I'm an associate director here at PPD Thermo Fisher Scientific within the clinical data management department. Been with the organization for over a decade, and in my role, I oversee a diverse portfolio of projects across clients on the biopharma and within the biopharma and biotech companies. My focus is really ensuring high delivery, on time project delivery, and building strong collaborative partnerships with clients. Over to you, Balaji.
Hi, my name is Balaji Venkatesh. I am a senior programmer analyst too. I have been with organization for around 12 years now. I work as a lead programmer and oversee the programming activities for the assigned studies, and also I work as individual contributor for assigned projects. Uh, I like to travel and take photographs, and a fun thing about the travel is recently a elephant has been chased during my travel in the reserve forest. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Samrit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samrit, and I'm a senior clinical data associate at Thermo Fisher PPD. I've been working in the company for 7 years and will be stepping into 8 soon. So I help to maintain data quality and keep everything on track so the study can deliver reliable results. So for a fun fact, I really love to play football and I really love to watch football also, any international league. And of course, the World Cup is coming up, so I'm pretty much excited for it. So yeah, back to you, Pavitra.
Great. Thanks for your intros, team. I love how we went from brain games to photography to football. Yeah, not to forget the elephant chasing also in under 2 minutes. So I think that must be the most diverse skill set we've seen on one panel. So let's put those talent into work and talk about the impact that they create at work. Let's start the discussion with our first question. Resha, as our clinical data leader, you see things at a high level, right? So, where do you see data science making the biggest impact on study delivery, data quality, and customer outcomes?
Right. So within the broader clinical study landscape, data management, data sciences really plays a key role in the study success, right? So we are involved right at the beginning of the study, right from the stage where we receive the protocol, we implement tools to ensure high quality data collection from the sites and right into detecting data issues and monitoring risks and providing this back to the study teams on an ongoing basis. This is really how we impact the whole study team. So we are working cross functionally, and data management is really at the center of the clinical data study or clinical trial. And the insights that we provide based on advanced analytics and our ongoing monitoring of the data, this helps the study to ensure any issues are taken care of in a timely manner. And then that we are helping uh, detect and avoid or mitigate issues and risks that slow down study execution and thereby preventing delays in getting the treatment out to the patients. I can give you an example. We collect lots of data within a clinical trial, and some of this data comes in from vendors. For example, lab data, right? So we have lab samples that are collected at the sites, reach the central labs. They are analyzed, very critical for most clinical studies. Uh, Traditionally, data management has been the end receiver of this data, and we would receive the data, reconcile it, and process and pass it on to the statistics team. At this time, due to availability of advanced analytics tools and systems, we are able to look at the data and identify if there are delays at any nodes in the process, right? So right from the lab sample collection at sites to, the reaching of these samples at the central labs, or the next step, which is the analysis labs, anywhere where we kind of are able to identify a pile up of issues, we are then looking at, who needs to fix this, and we are liaising with those different teams to ensure they are processing all of the activities on an ongoing basis and timely delivery of this on to the next step, right? So this is how we work with different teams. We are working with clinical biostats team, pharmacovigilance, medical writing, all of these teams. So, thereby we kind of have a good outreach and we liaise with all of these different teams. Uh, so yes, I think the biggest impact in my view is really proactive study management and ongoing data quality in real time. And by doing all of this, ultimately, we are ensuring better outcomes for our patients as well as our clients.
Okay, thank you, Resha. So every time someone says data, right? So data-driven decisions, there are usually a few programmers quietly making sure the data is actually usable. So Balaji, let's come to you. From the biostats and programming side, what does your work look like behind the scenes? What types of data, programming, or analytics challenges do you help solve, or your team help solve?
Yes, thank you, Pavitra. In simple terms, as a clinical SAS programmer, our role is basically to take a raw clinical data and make it analysis ready and submission ready. So data usually comes from multiple sources like hospitals, labs, different systems. So it's rarely clean or standardized. So a big part of our work is writing SAS programs to clean, validate, and standardize the data properly. We also work closely with biostats data managers, medical teams, because the data set we create eventually used for study analysis and regulatory submissions to the agencies like FDA, EMA. So for example, in a vital signs or in a lab data, one site might record a weight in pounds and another site might record in kilograms. So we need to standardize the data before submitting to the analysis. So it could affect the study results. So the role is not just about coding in SAS, it's about understanding the clinical study, handling real world data issues carefully, and making sure the final data sets are accurate and compliant.
Very interesting. This reminds me of why data needs structure, right? Uh, Samrat, you are one of the people making sure that structure survives real life. Let's bring this to a day-to-day level. What does a typical week look like in your role as a senior clinical data associate? Who do you collaborate with to move the work forward?
Thanks, Vaitra. So I would say most week my focus is on discrepancy and query management. Since we work across multiple studies at the same time, there's always different activities that is going on. So depending on the phase of the study, so suppose if I'm working for a startup study, then I usually do like edit check testing or UAT testing and create documents like, DVM or guidelines. And if the study is suppose going on a maintenance phase, then we are like focusing mostly on query review and listing management. And of course, the most important part is the third party vendor and the ETC reconciliation. So as Resha mentioned, right, we do those reconciliations like SAE, there's local lab, there's central lab, then there's like IRT reconciliation. And again, we have like weekly meeting with clients and different cross-functional teams. And suppose if the study is going out, in a closeout phase, then we work on freezing the database and locking the database and making sure that every data is clean. So, we collaborate with different functions like, BIOS team, the medical monitors, then the clinical team, and of course the programming team, and so all of us, we work together as a unit to deliver data for any clinical trials. So basically, I would say my role goes beyond, data review. It's because I mostly act like a bridge between teams that keeps the data flowing between them.
Okay. So that's good how you're ensuring that the data is flowing and not stagnant, right? So let me put it this way. This is probably the clinical research version of asking what's difference between a doctor, a surgeon, and a specialist, right? So everyone knows they are related, but the lines can really get blurry sometimes. So many attendees asked about the difference between clinical data management, clinical data science, data analytics, and programming. How would you explain the difference and where do these areas overlap, Resha?
Right. So, all right, looking at clinical data sciences, clinical data management, analytics, and programming. Well, clinical data management to begin with, as I mentioned, we really kind of the operational backbone of the study, right from implementing the database, which helps in quality data collection at source, to a lot of processing of this data and ensuring this is reaching the next step, which is the biostats team for their analysis of the data. The data management team kind of is looking at data on an ongoing basis, doing all of the processing, right? So the end result that we expect is really that the data is accurate, complete, consistent, and regulatory compliant. So this is quickly about data management. Now, moving on to clinical data sciences, it's taking this one level higher or deeper, as you like. It's really within clinical trials and with the increasing complexities that we are seeing in protocols just now, enormous amounts of data is collected. And what becomes important because of cost and time constraints on studies is to ensure we are looking at data that really has the biggest impact, right? So, what is critical to the study success? What is really giving us information about the efficacy of the study, the safety of the study? So, within clinical data sciences, then the focus is more on the critical data to ensure we are looking at risks to this data early on and looking at these risk signals and working and providing this to all of the cross-functional teams to ensure these are managed proactively. Now, moving on to the data analytics team. Now, the focus of all of our teams is pretty much the same, but the way we look at it and our tools activities are slightly varying, right? So, within data analytics, then we are looking at data interpretation by looking at data visualizations. We identify key risk indicators at the beginning of the study based on the protocol requirements and our understanding of the therapeutic areas, the patient populations. And within data analytics, this is looking across multiple aspects like the patients, the sites, and processes. So just looking at all of these, then they are helping in proactive issue detection and risk identification, addressing these with all of the teams that help resolve these on a timely basis, hence ensuring smooth execution of the process and the project towards study delivery. Moving on to programming, again, this is really our technical engine. So the programmers within studies help us with, programming aspects like edit check creation, programming, creating reports and listings that, ultimately help us in giving good quality data, passing on good quality data in the right formats for biostatistics team for their analysis. Uh, they typically work with systems and tools based on SAS, C, C Sharp, and more recently R. So I think to sum it all up, then the all these teams kind of have a certain overlap because data is at the center of all of this for all of these different teams. However, the way they're looking at it is slightly different, but the end result, the ultimate goal for all of us is the same. That is really to ensure reliable, high quality data and faster and more efficient processes.
Great. So, like you mentioned, data is the center and the goal is same, but there are a lot of roles around the data that's built. As an outsider, one can use it interchangeably, but I think this clarifies a lot. Great. Thank you, Resha. So, we've mapped out the different players on the field. Balaji, let's say with the sports analogy, right? So, it's becoming a little serious. Let's bring it down. Where does the programming team actually enter the game of clinical trial data lifecycle, and what kind of outputs, decisions, or downstream work do they enable?
Yeah, so clinical SAS programmers usually get involved once the clinical trial data starts coming in from different study sites. So our job is to take the raw data and convert it into the standardized data sets like HTTM and ADAMS, which are the formats used for analysis and regulatory submissions. So from there, we generate outputs like tables, listings, and figures. We usually call them as TLFs. These outputs are important because they support a lot of downstream decisions during the study. For example, during an interim analysis, a safety review team might look at adverse event trends or efficacy results, so to decide whether the study should continue as planned or if there are any concerns that need further attention. So in my experience, I have seen a couple of studies have stopped during the interim analysis due to the unfavorable conditions or results. So overall, our work helps make sure the clinical data is reliable, standardized, and ready for both analysis and regulatory review.
Great. So it's basically from raw to standardizing it, right? Great. Uh, Samrit, I'll come to you. I would like to understand from your experience, right? Where do clinical data teams work mostly with programming, analytics, or other technical teams? So, what does a good collaboration looks like?
So, at CTM, we work with the programming team right from the start of the study, be it database programmer or SAS programmer. As Resha already mentioned, they are the driving force on making the program listing or even database, as per the study specification. The programmer looks more into the technical side of the data flow, whereas we focus on data review and study requirements. At my role, we are not much involved with the analytics team, but we do receive some reports, where they look up, suppose, an outliers like vital signs which are out of ranges, or query closeout trains in some sites. So we work closely with programmers. We work closely with bios as they look into the data holistically, and they reach out to us if there's any discrepancies involved. So overall, I'd say it's a team effort that helps maintain data quality, and we ensure like the study data is ready, reliable, and most importantly of high quality when we are closing any study. So both the analytics team and the bios team, they rely heavily on us, for ensuring the data quality.
Great. So, beyond the technical skills, I think collaborating with each other plays an important role in the data science, right? Because the data keeps flowing between the teams, right? Thank you. So, Resha, for candidates coming from clinical data management, clinical operations, or pharma, lab, or life sciences backgrounds, right? So, what makes clinical data a strong entry point into more data science oriented work?
Sure. So clinical data management is really, as I mentioned, at the core of clinical study, right? So the clinical research ecosystem, we are at the center, we're working all of these different teams. So the initial point being getting the database, which is the electronic data capture system in place to ensure, we are collecting data and we are putting in like, tools and systems, processes like edit checks in place to ensure the study data is of good quality at the source itself. So right from that, to working with all of these different teams, the processing of data that Samrit mentioned, all of this is what data management is involved in, which gives this team deep exposure to study data as well as the entire study life cycle itself, right? So we are currently in a stage where we are working with enormous volumes of data. So I think, for all of the processing that was mentioned, be it protocol deviations, query management, uh, different vendor data reconciliations, what is really required is that our teams are really looking at this data hands-on with a lot of uh, critical thinking, not just kind of looking at it as day-to-day activities, but critical thinking, complex problem solving. We get data from different sources. These are integrated at different points. So ensuring like complex problem solving, these become critical. And alongside having a good hold of fundamentals, like what your protocol expects, what is this project or study trying to achieve? What are we trying to kind of help the patients with? That is critical. So I think this combination of domain expertise, hands-on data management work, risk identification, complex problem solving, and cross-functional collaboration with all of these different teams within the clinical research team. I think this is, this kind of gives us a lot of scope to expand, our thinking. And then, in my opinion, because of all of this, data management continually is highly dynamic and it's intellectually engaging.
Agree. I think that forms the foundation for them to grow in their career into data science roles. Great. So, okay, so for someone coming from software development, programming analytics, or another technical background, maybe, right? What do they need to learn about clinical research or healthcare data to succeed in biostats and programming, Balaji?
Uh, yeah. Uh, Honestly, if someone is coming from software development, programming, or analytics, they already have a strong technical foundation. So the biggest learning curve is usually understanding the clinical research side of thing. By that, I mean learning how clinical trials are designed, what the different data set represents, and why regulatory standards are such a big deal in this industry. Because here it is not just about writing the efficient code or building data sets. You also need to understand the story behind the data. For example, you should know what an adverse event means in clinical context, how patient visits are structured throughout the study, or why even a missing lab value could potentially impact the final analysis or regulatory review. uh, I would say getting familiar with CDISC standards like ADAM or STTMs is important. Also, understanding the protocols, app, and basically clinical terminology helps a lot.
Okay, so it's not just the technical skills, but a complete understanding of clinical terminology as well that plays a role, right? So we've seen from diverse backgrounds what would be the entry point and what is needed to enter into the data science, right? Let's get closer to the hands-on work, right? What skills we should have had to build on the job or and has helped grow in the field, Samrit? Would you like to take this?
Sure, Pavitra. So when I joined back in 2018, I had an understanding of how clinical trials work and what is expected from this role. But when I started to work on projects, I actually understood what is the core value of CDM and how it works. So technically, with the help of my mentors and Resha being one of them, I learned to develop skills like, effective query writing, which is the most basic, but it is the most valuable part of our field. And then, how to review data and how to clean them effectively. So if you see how I look into data and how suppose a bios team or stats team or even a clinical team looks into data, they have different perspective on the same data. So I have learned, to combine all of those perspective into one and have, data and clean the data effectively. Then, how to investigate the root cause and how to handle multiple studies with, different demands, and then how to prioritize any tasks or time management. I would say time management is very important in clinical trial because all the clinical trials are, timeline driven. And I believe the most important skill I have gained so far is the communication skill because, data management is not only about cleaning the data, but it is also about effectively communicating and coordinating with all the cross-functional teams. And this actually results in overall study efficiency. So in PPD, I have the opportunity to learn so many things because there are so many training materials which are available. And there has been always, I would say, an open communication between me and my mentors or me and my manager or even my study leads, this has helped me get so many opportunities and to learn so many new things, and everyone here is willing to help you out.
That's wonderful, Samrit. So I think we understand from here that communication, collaboration, time management becomes the key foundation here, right? So let's take it a bit one notch more, right? So uh, don't worry, everyone. We haven't forgotten the SQL and Python questions for you, right? So all of us are interested to know about the technical skills as well. Balaji, what technical skills matter most today for clinical data science, trial programming, or analytical roles for that matter? And how should candidates think about tools like SQL, SAS, Python, R, and data standards?
Uh, Yeah, I think today the most important technical skills in the clinical data science and trial programming are combination of the strong programming knowledge, data understanding, and familiarity with clinical data standards. So it's not just about knowing the one tool anymore. Candidates should be comfortable working across multiple technologies depending on the project needs. For example, CDIC standards like HTTM and ADAMS are extremely important because they form the foundation for standardized clinical datasets and regulatory submissions. In terms of tools, SAS is still widely used, especially in regulatory and submission works. SQL is a core skill because a lot of clinical data comes from databases. So being able to extract and handle the, data efficient is important. Uh, at the same time, Python and R are becoming more valuable for automation, analytics, and visualization, and even streamlining repetitive programming tasks. But honestly, beyond just learning programming languages, I think the biggest skill is understanding how to take a raw clinical data, identify data issues, and transform the data to the accurate and compliant and analysis ready. Because in clinical research, even a small data issues can have a real impact on study outcomes and regulatory reporting.
Right. Thank you for that, Balaji. I think it's a very insightful answer what you gave, that while there are still many technical skills that are essential, success is coming from understanding the data itself,
Yeah.
right? So, all right. So at this point, I want to do a quick reminder to all our attendees. We have Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add them via the Q&A button, and we will get to them as best as we can. Now, I think we've successfully gone almost 30 minutes without mentioning AI. That might be a record in 2026. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. As AI-driven tools become more common in data analysis and clinical workflows, how do teams maintain trust, data quality, and compliance, Resha?
Right, absolutely. That is the elephant in the room. So we do see AI-driven tools, getting more and more integrated into clinical workflows and data analysis. And as much as we acknowledge that this increases efficiency, we are able to, reach insights faster, and there is certainly a risk that we see for the accuracy of the outputs. To there could be bias that kind of is inherent to the way the system works. Traceability, this is really important because we are in a highly regulated industry. So traceability, right from, if we have an output, we should be able to trace it back to the source. That is one of the fundamental requirements. So traceability becomes an important, and explainability as well. So this is something that we within the industry are aware of, and to ensure we have, a good amount of trust in the AI ML generated outputs, we need to, within the processes, and this is our, incessant, uh, uh, approach, or, as we are developing new processes to help in the implementation of AI ML technologies, we inherently kind of have certain checks to put in place. So things like model validation, looking at data lineage checks, right? For example, I'm sure most of us have used like ChatGPT now. You give the same prompt twice or thrice, the output is never the same. And that's really the nature of how that system and tool works, right? It is expected to improve and enhance on the go. So with all of this, then there are risks that, within clinical research, we cannot have like, different sort of outputs for the same prompt at different points of time. So, that model validation becomes important. And within the processes, we do integrate steps like, process validation, independent review of these outputs. So that's really important. Exception management. So sometimes the, artificial intelligence system could kind of identify something as an exception. However, that exception might really mean something else within the clinical study context, right? Because this is patient data at the end of the day. Something really extreme could be happening that really tells us something. So that exception management, audit trails and traceability, all of these are important. And these are things that we constantly are trying to integrate into the processes as we are enhancing these on the go. So I think at the end of the day, we acknowledge AI ML really is increasing efficiencies for us. Automating a lot of workflows within our systems is proving to be beneficial. However, AI should always augment human expertise, and it is not something that can replace clinical data professionals.
Got it. So AI cannot standalone operate, but it requires HI, which is our human intelligence, to be successful. So that gives the great perspective on governance side of AI. So now let's switch gears and talk about the application side of AI, right? Balaji, where do you see AI, machine learning, and automation delivering real value in your work today? And are there any areas where human expertise and judgment simply can't be replaced?
Uh, I think AI, machine learning, and automation are already becoming very useful in programming and analytical work, especially for repetitive and data intensive tasks. For example, they can really help with things like code generation, data cleaning, anomaly detection, predictive analysis, and even automated reporting. So, in many ways, they improve efficiencies and allow the teams to work faster by reducing a lot of manual effort. So in clinical programming, specifically, automation can also help streamline repetitive validation checks or support faster and data set generation and review processes. But at the same time, I don't think AI can replace the human judgment, as Resha said, especially in healthcare and clinical research. Human involvement is still very important for understanding the clinical context behind the data. For instance, AI might identify a pattern or generate an output, but someone still needs to validate whether the results actually makes sense from the medical, statistical, or regulatory point of view. So human judgment is also critical when making strategy decisions, interpreting results, handling ambiguous data issues, and ensuring compliance with ethical and regulatory standards. So overall, I see AI more as a strong support tool that enhance productivity rather than something completely replace domain expertise and decision making.
Can't agree more. I think AI enables us but doesn't replace us it, right? All right. So everything sounds great when the study is running smoothly. But we all know careers are built during the moments when things don't go according to the plan. Now, I'd like to understand from Samrit, can you share an example of challenging data handling situation that you've had? It can be a data quality issue or a timeline pressure or complex study scenario. How the team worked through it.
Okay, so looking back, I've had like several experiences over the year, but at the top of my head, I have one challenging scenario that I can talk about. I was working for a particular sponsor and we had this patient analysis timeline and we had to submit the data to the regulatory board. So it was very important. And we were almost at the end of all of our activities and suddenly our sponsor just identifies a discrepancy in the data integration process. You know, mm, where some of the kit numbers they were just not matching. So in terms of risks, it was quite high because we were just going to submit the data to the regulatory boards. So and this process it was not established before with the client. So it was completely new to us. And so, this quickly turned into a cross-functional effort, involving the clinical team, the bios team, and of course, us in the CDM. So everyone was on their feet working, and then we had to unfreeze some data. First, we had to find out the discrepancies, where the discrepancies are. Then, we had to unfreeze the data. Then we raised the queries. Once the queries are raised, then we talked to the clinical team. The clinical team reached out to site, and site then updated the data. And once the data was updated, then we closed the queries, and then we again refreeze the data, and completing the entire cycle. So this entire team, they put up such a collaborative effort. It just taught me, like, this experience just taught me a lot, like, calm and clear communication, then teamwork under pressure. Teamwork is absolutely like dream work at that time. So, then there's like proactive problem solving. And, our client was so happy with the turnaround, because we were going to submit the data. So it just showed me how critical collaboration is in clinical trials, and especially when quality and timelines are both equally important.
I really loved the point about the teamwork. Teamwork is a dream work, right? So that is so true across in most of our careers, right?
True.
So as the session is slowly unfolding different aspects and perspectives of this data science careers, right? Next comes the growth. What happens, right? So Resha, what does career growth look like across clinical data and related data science career paths? How can someone deepen their expertise or expand their influence over time?
Sure. All right. That is an interesting, point to discuss about career development, career progression opportunities. Well, I joined clinical data management about more than 2 decades ago. And, I've seen the evolution firsthand, right from working on paper studies to moving into EDC and, now more of AI ML implementation in our workflows. So it has been an interesting, it is always dynamic, environment that we work in, and that continues to be the case. So I think, adapting and continuous learning, that is essential. We know technology is kind of really moving at a very quick pace. So ensuring we are keeping up with it, these are going to be essential. So I think having continuous learning, uh, you know, learning and unlearning as well with new technologies coming in, that learning adaptability, that is going to be key. And with new technologies, a lot of different small changes in processes, although our outcomes are pretty or broadly, similar to what it has been in the past, getting that critical thinking, understanding the why behind how things are happening and why things are being done in a certain way, that is really critical. So in terms of some fundamentals kind of still stay. So, more than 2 decades ago, what was really important for me as a clinical data management professional is to ensure I have a good understanding of regulatory requirements, protocol expectations, what this study is trying to achieve, the drug or the medical device, what should the outcome be, uh, and what this means for patients. All of that still remains critical. We need to have a good understanding, in-depth understanding of what the protocol expects, because that then drives quality on study. This, along with technology and data-driven thinking, right? This includes, uh, as I mentioned, critical thinking, complex problem solving, uh, and alongside, we need to ensure we're looking at risks on an ongoing basis. So, looking at risk uh, management, identification, and management of these risks, all of these kind of become critical. So, bringing all of these aspects together, I think, and we work collaboratively with a lot of functions within the clinical research ecosystem. Exposure and liaising with these different teams gives us more and deeper insights into the study. So I think all of these, together gives us enormous opportunity to really delve into any of these fields, right? You could get into project leadership role, within project management, risk-based quality management, within data management, kind of looking at things as a data strategist. All of these are opportunities that are out there for clinical data management or clinical data science professionals. But what is important, again, I'm repeating myself here, is continuous learning, having that adaptable mindset and really looking at domain expertise and technology and data-driven thinking. All of these can lead you to a lot of great opportunities.
It That's a good one, Arisha. I think that technology-driven and a data-driven thinking, right? It becomes very important. There's one more aspect of it, right? So when we are joining in an organization, culture becomes an important aspect of any career that we are looking at. So we often say people join for the role but stay for the team. What's been your experience, Samrit? How would you describe the team culture and ways of working? What has helped you continue learning and build a sustainable career here?
So I would describe the culture as highly collaborative, supportive, and most importantly, quality focused. Even the work can be fast and timelines can be very demanding. We all work together as a team. People are always willing to help each other out and share knowledge and work together towards a common goal, which is delivering high quality data for our patient and for our sponsors. You know, as Resha mentioned, like we have this continuous learning environment. Even today, I learned so much from Resha and Balaji. So, this has really helped me build a sustainable career here. The leadership and the senior team, they have absolutely been amazing. They supported me to work, independently at projects and helped me grow my skill and confidence all together. You never stop learning here. There's so many things you can learn from people here. So I would say like study wise, every study has their own set of challenges. Every sponsor has their own unique way of looking into data and work around. There's always an opportunity to build new skills and technical knowledge all together.
Great. I think it's not just learning for a career, but it's a learning for life, I believe.
Absolutely.
Really put, Samrit. Okay, so a big thank you to our panelists for sharing their perspective and experience. We have explored the work, skills, technology, the career possibilities in this field, right? So as we move toward the next session, so we can't wait to see the amazing resumes from this applicants pool of applicants, right? So now it's time to turn the spotlight to our audience and address questions that have been coming in through the Q&A here, right? So we'll tackle as many questions from the chat as we can, and anything we don't cover, don't worry about it. We will include it in a follow-up FAQ email. Remember, you can submit questions anytime using the Q&A tool. Let's kick things off with our first question. Okay, so we have a question here from someone who says they are currently in clinical data management or clinical operations and are interested in moving into more data science oriented role. So what would you advise them to focus on first? Domain knowledge, technical skills, or project exposure? Resha, would you like to take this question?
Sure, Pavitra. So as I mentioned, clinical data science is kind of taking clinical data management one notch up. So data management, there's a lot of data processing that's happening. Data science, we're really kind of looking at what is key data to the study, right? What's critical to the study? And then what are the issues that we are seeing? What are the issues we are detecting with that critical data? What are the risks we are seeing for the entire project or that study delivery that this critical data issues kind of introduce. So because it's kind of looking at what is critical to the study, in my opinion, of course, all of these are really important skills, be it domain knowledge, the technical skills, understanding how these systems and tools are working together, how the data is coming together, how all of these different project teams are, or different functions within the project team are working together. However, first understanding what the protocol is kind of dictating, right? What is this drug? What is it trying to achieve? Because of this therapeutic area, the way this protocol is designed, the way the study design is, what is really critical to this study, and where can we anticipate certain things kind of becoming high risks based on, our historical knowledge of those particular indications of therapeutic areas. I think that would be the starting point. So that would be key to start off. And that complemented with, the technical skills. Of course, once we know what is really important for the study, what the risks are, that needs to be complemented by how these tools are working together and how the process needs to flow and who needs to address these issues. So I think the technical skills and project expertise, of course, complement this, but the deep understanding of the why and what is expected from that study would be the key starting point.
Great. So, Samrat, any quick thoughts from you on this question before I move on to the next one?
No, it's most of it is covered by Resha, but yeah, I believe all of those should be, combined for someone to move into data science.
Great. Thank you. All right, so I'll take up the next question. Another question we are seeing is around tools. For someone applying to clinical data science, trial programming, or analytics roles, how much do they really need to know SQL, SAS, Python, or CDISC standards before applying? And how do you weigh technical skills versus understanding clinical research? Balaji, this is to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer that really depends on the specific role, but generally candidates do not need to be expert in every tool before applying. For clinical data science, trial programming, and analytical roles, having a solid foundation in at least one or two key tools such as SQL, SAS, or Python is often more important than trying to know everything. For trial programming position, SAS and CD standards like STTM and ADAM are typically high valued, while clinical data science and analytical roles may place more emphasis on or Python or SQL. That said, many organizations are open to candidates who have very strong analytical capabilities and can learn few new tools. Um, so when evaluating candidates, I would say technical skills and clinical research knowledge are more important, but the balance varies by role. Technical skills can often be developed through training, whereas understanding the clinical trial process, regulatory requirements, and the context behind the data can be harder to teach. So candidates who can demonstrate both technical proficiency and an understanding of how data supports clinical development to stand out the most. So ultimately, we look for people who have strong learning mindset, can solve problems, communicate insight effectively, and understand how their work contributes to advancing clinical research.
Right. So it's the technical knowledge and the learning agility that matters the most from the candidates. All right, I'll move on to the next question in the chat. A few people have asked about the application side. Once someone sees a relevant role and applies, what helps a candidate stand out, especially for mid-level roles in clinical data, bioscience programming, or trial data analytics? Are there specific experiences, keywords, or examples they should highlight in their resume or interview? Probably I can take up this question, and Resha, if you can add some examples from what I start with, right? So, what helps candidates stand out is demonstrating the impact, right? So, not just responsibilities. Throughout this panel discussion, you might have understood that too. Highlight examples of problem solving, process improvements, cross functional collaboration, and measurable outcomes, right? So, tailor your resume to the role, showcase relevance, technical skills, and relevant study experience, and be ready to explain the value you delivered, right? The strongest candidates clearly articulate not just what they did, but the impact it had. In short, we look for skills, impact, and ownership from any candidate. Uh, any examples or anything you want to add on, Resha?
No, I completely agree with what you mentioned so far, Pavitra. The skills that they bring, what impact they've had within, their projects, within their previous organizations, how they demonstrated ownership. I think these are really great points that you've made there. From data management or clinical data sciences perspective specifically, what would interest me again is pretty much in line with this, but going into specifics really, uh, where they've had like, challenges that they faced. So we know that study startup has like its own challenges with the database setup, with all of the different integrations that we support with different vendors. So, what they can't kind of spell out each and every aspect, but what are the highlights of some of the bigger challenges that they've kind of faced and overcome? Just kind of providing some key insights into that. To me, what again would be important is to understand their therapeutical knowledge and expertise. So highlighting that would kind of make uh, us kind of pay more attention to those details and their overall experience, right? Not just the number of projects they've supported, but what are the different phases they've worked in, what sort of support they've extended to their study teams. I think these would be important for me to kind of understand their profile at a quick glance.
Great. Thank you, Risha. So I have a few more questions coming in from the audience, right? So I would just need crisp answers from the panels here, right? So I have an interesting question from Prashanti directed to Resha. Uh, as a women leader, what were some of the key career choices or steps that helped you progress to where you are today?
All right. Okay, that's interesting. Um, Well, I think there we all stumble across certain challenges as we go on, prioritizing between what is important in life overall and work. That's critical to me. I kind of am very selective about what I give my time and energy to. I think time is something everybody talks about. Your energy is a big key player in this whole scenario. So uh, I emphasized on continuous learning. That has been like a key aspect throughout my career. I kind of have played different roles. I kind of keep looking at what I should improve, and every 6 months I'm kind of doing a check on myself about what new have I learned, right? So I am a project management professional, so I did the certification because I felt at some point, I kind of was getting involved in project management. I wanted to know how experts do it better. So, then kind of ended up doing that. I am involved a lot on the SCDM side on the academics. So I stay abreast of, updates that are coming through from the industry, from different forums. And, I think that's a key differentiator. And that has helped me, reach where I am and be good at what I'm doing, if I may say so.
Right. Thank you, Risha. There are a few more questions, and I also see a few hands up. I request you to drop in your questions in the Q&A so that we can pick it up and answer later also if you're not able to cover in the session. So I just have last 2 minutes left. I'll take one last question, then probably we will kind of wrap it up, right? Uh, all right, so this is an interesting question about freshers, right? So, what skills freshers can work on? What are some of the common gaps you see in fresh graduates applying for data focused roles? How can freshers become more industry ready? Samrit, would you like to answer this?
Yes, sure. I mean, you don't need anything prerequisite for this, but I would say an understanding of how clinical trials work and what are the phases, it would really help you out. And of course, a little bit of skills like an Excel. Otherwise, you can of course come over here and you can learn so many things. You can, because the way that I have learned so far, yeah, I've shadowed out people like Resha and everyone who has so much experience behind her, right? So you can just of course come over here and learn towards all the skills that are required. So the basic skill is you need to learn basic medical terms and life sciences and just like Excel and stuff. That's all you need.
Great. Thank you, Samrit. So we are almost at time, right? So as a reminder, if we did not answer your questions, we'll follow up via email with all FAQ from this session. With that, I want to thank you all for attending and listening to our panel and for questions you have submitted. Right? Thank you again for all our speakers, for all their great insights on roles and all things about data science. So you will see a QR code on the screen now. Please scan the QR code to see what is available and apply for the open roles in our organization. And thank you so much once again for all for attending this session, and a huge thank you to our amazing speakers.
Thank you. Thanks, Pavitra. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pavitra.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.